Hey, population growth, how you doing? Glad you could catch the late night after hours exposing D&D live. And with that, let me switch to the live scene since it's just about 10 o'clock anyways. Alright, and welcome to the first late night after hours exposing D&D 5e live with me, Andrew, and with you, anyone watching. Thank you for joining me. This is the first time doing it this late at night, and had a very good day of getting some stuff taken care of, and the family and I watched the most recent Pirates of the Caribbean movie. Yes, luckily it was pretty much just answered that. We just watched the Pirates of the Caribbean Dead Men Tell No Tales. I haven't seen that movie up until now. We had watched the other three movies prior to this, like a month or so ago. So it was nice to see the last movie. Although technically, even though it's the fourth movie, it's the third movie because the first two movies were a two-parter. So technically, movies 1 and 2 were actually movie 1. I don't know. So population growth, thank you for joining. Do you have any recommendations for tonight's exposing monsters for D&D? Otherwise, I will jump onto a couple of the backlog items I haven't covered yet, and we'll go from there. Alright, while I wait for any kind of monster recommendations, let's take a look at what I have here. On the side, so we got this week's monsters coming out, which I've already covered in past videos. These two are on Sunday, Monday are going to be homebrews. No, I don't believe I have population growth. Let me double check that, and let me see where that one. Where is? I know that's in the monster manual, but what CR level is it? Alright, the white is a CR3. I don't think I've covered it, so let me double check my numbers here. And just to be sure, yeah, it looks like I haven't covered the white, so let's take a look at that. Let me grab the book for Monster Manual. And let's see here, page 300. Oh, that wasn't far enough. What is going on here? Why did that stop? There we go. Pardon me, having a hard time breathing. Alright, so we have our white here. A pretty decent looking undead. Actually, I had a one shot that I used from a creator on Patreon. I think it was One Page Mage. I use a lot of his stuff just for the fun of it when I don't have my full group on Tuesday nights or even the other nights. Oh, yeah, no problem. Thanks for joining anyways, and let's take a look at this monster while we got it, while you're still on here with your phone. Alright, so we have the white. A medium undead with 14 AC, 68 hit dice, and a constitution bonus of 16. Don't care about those two items, and it should be a CR3. So that's our base information out of the way from here on the white section. So let's move into the skills area, where we have a couple skills. Those don't matter. We have damage resistances of necrotic, bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing from the typical stuff that needs to be silvered, which is pretty handy earlier on in the game. So we'll throw the resistances on to give it 2 times the hit points, already bringing our CR up to a 1 just because of how much it has for defenses. And then we have some damage immunities to poison, but because it's only one condition and it's such a low CR, we don't really worry about that, because if we switch it to immunities, we still have 2 times the hit points. So then we move down into monster traits since our skills are all done, and we only have sunlight sensitivity, and which is always surprising to me, anything that is a detriment to the monster doesn't really calculate into the CR. And because of that, sunlight sensitivity has no effect on the white. So we can skip over that and move right into the action sections for the white here to see what we're dealing with. Alright, so moving over to the combat workspace, we have a plus to hit of 4, which isn't all that high, but it is a low CR monster of only 3. And we have, let's see here, multi-attack of 2 longsword attacks or 2 longbow attacks. It can use its life drain in place of one of the longsword attacks, so that's handy. And let's see here. We have the life drain, which will deal 5 necrotic damage. The target must succeed a con save, or its hit point max is reduced by an amount equal to damage taken. This reduction lasts until they finish a long rest. Alright, and if someone's slain, blah blah blah. So we have some effective damage going on here as well. And it's going to be equal. So I'm going to suggest that the life drain is actually doing double damage here, because it's doing 5.5 damage, but because of the hit point maximum going down as well, it's also reducing the player's hit points by that much as well. So technically, life drain is going to be dealing 11 damage, 5.5 being actual damage, and the other 5.5 being effective damage, which will have to be healed later on. Then we also have the longsword, which, because our white is only using studded leather armor, we can swing the longsword two-handed, and we'll use the 1 point more of damage here to use it two-handed and get a little bit more damage out. So we have 7.5 damage for the longsword, and then we also have the longbow, which will deal 6.5 damage. So now that we have all of our actions taken care of, let's take a look and figure out what would be the most optimum amount of damage we can do here. And it would actually be 1 longsword swing and a life drain because of the effective damage that is being dealt to the players or targets. So I would suggest we do 11 from attack 1 being the life drain, and also 7.5 on the average for the longsword. And we get an average of 18.5. And then when we go down into the rounds of combat, we simply just take that and we'll do round down because we can't have the half number there. And then we will just do that to make it 18. That way, if I need to switch anything, we don't have to worry about it. Multiply it by 3 and we get an 18. So surprisingly enough, right now, we're looking at a CR2 for a white, and this makes a lot of sense, because especially when I used it against my players, they defeated the white with pretty easily. There wasn't really much that they needed to do in order to defeat the white, which is a shame, because this is a pretty iconic monster in my opinion. So what can we do to make the white a little more dangerous? Well, at the moment, we're looking at CR2 across the board, and I know that when Wizards or D&D created the monsters, they usually like to have the monsters be more deadly, and that's probably what I would go with the white. Unless we want it to be tankier, then we might say let's adjust it and add in some more AC and maybe some more make it easier to hit with. So that could be a quick way to fix that. Yes. Population growth. Thank you for explaining. I was so confused last time. What part were you confused with? Part of what I'm going through here, or just with another monster? So, if we wanted to keep the white evenly balanced and making it a versatile monster, one of the things we could do right off the bat is, since we're already looking for AC 13, we could move it up from studded leather armor to whatever would give 15 AC. So the next type of armor up from studded leather, which I can't think of off the top of my head. Whatever it is, let's say we give the white 15 AC instead. Well, now we're hitting CR3, but our OCR is still a little on the low side. Just last live, I didn't understand what you were doing. Oh, okay. Yeah, just breaking the monsters down and making sure we're finding those challenge ratings. So as you see here, the white is supposed to be a CR3. I found a CR2 using the tools here and based off of all the information provided in the stat block. So with that, let's say we want to make this white do a little bit, make it hit a little easier. So let's increase the attack bonus from 4 to 5. In order to do that, it looks like the white is either using, it actually doesn't really matter. The white is using strength or dexterity. And the strength would be used in the longsword. The dexterity is used in the longbow. So if we up the strength to, let's say, oh, actually, we probably could increase the dexterity to help with the longbow attack, as well as increase the strength for the long sword attack and the life drain as well. So if we were to, just for the sake of it, increase the strength to, I don't know, 16 and give it a +3, that will increase the damage ever so slightly on both attacks. So instead of 11, we would be seeing the life drain go up to, what would that be? 6.5, so we would see 13. And then the longsword attack would increase to 8.5, which is then bringing up the damage to the CR3, while the DCR base is at a 2, but because of the AC bonus, it brings it up to a 3. And then on top of that, our attack bonus would also increase to a 5. And we have ourselves a CR3, which, you know, as I stated before, is at least what they were potentially going for here. We have a versatile white that can take some damage as well as deal some damage out, lasting a few rounds of combat, and won't drop as easy as maybe a striker or a glass cannon, especially glass cannons, but won't be on the field way too long where we might see, you know, a tank or some kind of a damage sponge. And the damage sponge being a creature having way too many hit points. So the technical quick fix we could do is increase both the dex and the strength bonuses up to a +3 each, which would possibly give the white +1 more AC, and then the damage output and the 2 hit would bring everything up to a CR3. All right, let me take a note of that quick, so I have that here. Let's see here, find the white. Here we go, perfect. All right, evaluated. 2s across the board. We had an overrated monster. And then the quick fix being strength and dex to +3. Technically this is my list. I also have I have all of my old sheets, basically my script that I talk from for my old videos. So I have all those saved in case I ever need to come back and look at something I may have messed up on. So I do technically have a list of modded monsters, and this is everything that I've looked at too. So anything here towards the top, I've looked at to see if they're even rated, underrated, or overrated, and then I give my recommendations here of how to fix it. So yeah, I still have all that saved in case people want, you know, maybe a corrected stat block or something in the future, which would be kind of cool. If you've watched any of some of my live streams and whatnot, or not, the recaps, especially for my own custom monsters, I put out some PDFs there. If anyone has watched those, then they'll know at the end of the video. Being sneaky for those that actually watch it all the way through, because it's hard to get people to watch even a 4-minute video all the way to the end, because how dry how dry my presentation and the videos can be, unfortunately. All right, do you have any other monsters you'd like to see exposed to population growth? Let's see here. So that takes care of that. Let me fix that while I wait. All right, and I will also add that to my list of to-be shorts. Oh, 3 monster manual. Okay. Have you done a Duergar? I've done one. No, I've done a couple Duergars, but not the basic Duergar. So if we want the just run-of-the-mill standard Duergar, I'll definitely throw that in, since I haven't actually looked at that one. Let me find their CR number and where they're from real quick. And don't worry about the spelling. I am a horrible speller. Okay, so they should be a CR1, and they're in the monster manual as well. So let me throw that on here. One Duergar, monster manual. Okay. That's the one I meant. Okay. Let's see here. So Duergar. Giant lizards. Let's see here. Let me try that. Perfect. There we go. Standard run-of-the-mill Duergar. Yes, I've looked at the other ones I've looked at. Let's see here. Last live, I looked at Zardarok, Sunblight from Icewind Dale. I also looked at Duergar Despot, and I also looked at some like mutated Duergar from one of the campaign booklets. All right, back to the tool and resetting so we can take a look at the Duergar. Sorry about the sniffles. Having a hard time breathing. All right, so we have our Duergar here, the classic, super deep, down in the depths, dwarf, with a scale mail and shield for a total of 16 AC. They are medium, as I stated before, and they have 4d8 hit dice with a constitution of 14. Don't care about wisdom and charisma, and they should be a CR1. Let's see if that works out. And now that we have the base information out of the way, we can move down into the skills. We only have damage resistances to poison, and because it's only one condition, we're going to skip over that and ignore it for the time being. In my other videos, I've suggested that it seems like... Vanderi, hey, how you doing? Long time no see. I've stated in the past that it seems like D&D wants at least 3 conditions in their resistances and immunities, similar to your standard bludgeoning, slashing, and piercing before it takes any kind of effect. So that's where I usually go with, and I'll skip over it unless I absolutely need it later on after I've looked at the numbers completely. All right, let's see here. So, continuing on with the Duergar and moving down into the monster traits, we have Duergar Resilience, which gives them advantage on saving throws against poisons, spells, and illusions, as well as resistance to being charmed and paralyzed. Now, because it's a whole bunch of riders here, and especially spells, I'm going to suggest that this is very similar to magic resistance. So I'm going to give the Duergar the +2 AC bonus for magic resistance here, even though it doesn't exactly say it, but it does say, the whole spells thing here, and suggest we do that, and we'll see how it pops out at the end. Next, we have sunlight sensitivity, and as stated before with the white, this has no effect on the Duergar, surprisingly enough, and we'll move down into the actions of combat. Now we have enlarge here, which recharges, don't really care, but it does allow the Duergar to hit more often. And it's kind of silly that I have it over here as item number 22 on the rows, but if you wanted to add it in, you could, but generally speaking, the damage is here anyways, so it's kind of pointless to add it in on the side. You just go with it being there, but it does take an action to enlarge, so it is a little tricky. And let's see here, put the extra damage inflicted per round whilst enlarged. So the question is do you use enlarge? Because it takes an action to do this, and in theory, the Duergar would probably do this before battle started, more than likely. So we could have that in place. It's iffy, depends on what's going on here. Well, let's shift over to the combat workspace section since we're already done here, and we have +4 to hit for the Duergar, and we have, let's see here, a war pick, a javelin, and invisibility. And the invisibility will give us some stuff. We'll look at that in a minute here. So let's see here. We'll go with the war pick first for attack number 1. And We'll do 6.5 for that, just for the time being, before we get into any kind of enlarging. And then we have the javelin for, let's see here, or 9 piercing when whilst enlarged. So we'll do 5.5 there, and invisibility could be effective 12 damage per round, because it's not an actual attacking spell, but could add in effective damage. Well, not add in effective damage, but because it does do, it's a conditioned spell or whatever. Anyways, let's see here. So I'll skip over that for now. And right off the bat, the first things we could do is just round 1, 2, and 3. We'll have the war pick swing away. You know, the dual guard will be using the war pick, do some damage, and we'll just do, you know, round down 6.5 to 6 times 3, because we're not doing any kinds of multi-attacks. And we end up with, alright, so we end up with a CR 1/2 right now, but we haven't included the enlarge attack damage yet. And because we have 2 different attacks here, and we're getting 2 different amounts of extra damage, we're getting 5 extra here, and we're getting 4 extra here. Let's increase these to their actual numbers and see what happens. So the war pick will become 11, and I'm just going to cancel out the half damage because we're not going to get anything from there, and we get the 9 damage there. We then have 33 damage because we would be using the war pick enlarged multiple times, and then we get a full attack of 11 damage every round of combat, which gives us the 11 points of damage here, and we end up with a CR1 Duergar. So the Duergar is a CR1 provided they start combat as enlarged, or probably getting enlarged and then moving into, I wonder what, yeah, because if we average it at, so let's see what happens here. Let's take a look if we have to start round 1 while not enlarging. So round 1 would be 0 DPR, because round 1 they just go enlarge and get bigger. And then round 2 they would be doing the war pick attack. And we're probably going to have the same thing work out. No, we don't actually. Interesting. So once round 4 would start, if we get into round 4, then we would see the CR1 again. So if you have Duergars and you're a DM, you're going to want to have the Duergars grow before combat starts. I mean, technically it shouldn't take a full action to do it, but, you know, them's the rules. So again, we have a CR 1/2 if it isn't enlarged prior to combat, and we have a CR 1 afterwards. So I'm going to say it's correct, provided you get the enlarge off before combat starts. Alright, so let's see here. Venderi, when you finish the Duergar, could you take a look at the Shusufa? I was going to use it for my session tomorrow, but I would love to get your CR take on it. Volo's Guide to Monsters, page 137. Cool, Venderi. Thank you for all that. I will definitely take a look at it once I get these notes done real quick. Alright, Duergar. Let's see here. Evaluated, yes. And we had, what, a 1/2, a 1, 1, even. And the Duergar is even, provided they start enlarged. Otherwise, CR 1/2. Okay. Let's see here. Back to the tool. I'll reset that and get Volo's Guide out. Population growth, thanks for swinging by. I appreciate it. You hanging out with me for a little while, and I'm glad we got to take a look at a couple monsters for you. Hope to see you next time, and again, thanks for stopping by. It was fun. Alright, Vanderi, let's take a look at your monster. Shusuva. And that would be probably 138 in here. Sure enough. Oh, look at these fun monsters. Some more fiends here. What we got? A CR8? Oh, man. That would be fun. Potentially for my one group's alternate party. Alright, let's zoom in a bit and focus in on this demon wolf. All right. And with the tool reset, well, let's take a look at the Shisuva, a large fiend with 14 AC. Let's see here. The main thing I'm concerned about is the poison that paralyzes. So if it goes off, it means auto crits on subsequent hits. Yeah, that's very true. We'll see what happens here, because that sting is going to be pretty rough. All right. So we have a 14 AC. It's a large fiend with 13 hit dice and a constitution of 17. Should be a CR 8. And let's see here. That's it for the basic information. So let's take a look at the skills section. And we see that we have saving throws of Dex, Con, and Wisdom. So we have 3 here. And when we put that in, the Shisuva is getting a +2 effective AC bonus there, as well as damage resistances to cold, fire, lightning, and then the standard array of non-magical attacks. So we're going to definitely give it resistances, which gives it 1.5 times the hit points because it's a CR 8, and that's over the 6th threshold for lower monsters, I believe. We also have damage immunities to poison, but because it's only one condition, we're going to ignore that. And we'll move down into the monster trait since nothing else matters up in the skills area. And for a monster trait, we have Rampage. So when it reduces a creature to hit 0, it gets to take a bonus action to move at half its speed and make a bite attack. Now, here's the weird thing about Rampage. It only adds in +2 DPR by the rules in the Dungeon Master's Guide. And the DMG section for custom monsters, I think, was only taking into account gnolls at their very low CR rating and didn't account for these higher monsters because the bite attack is doing 7 points of damage, or 26 points of damage. That's the +7 to hit. So in theory, Rampage should be doing a lot more damage. But yeah, this doesn't seem right. But I'm sure, well, I don't want to say I'm sure, but I'm going to guess that because of everything else that the monster can do, we'll see something a little better here. So let's take a look in the workspace section now that we're done with our monster traits for Rampage, which should be more than 2. And we will put in the +2 to hit of 7. And then we will take a look at the multi-attack, which it has, let's see here, 2 attacks, 1 with its bite and 1 with its tail stinger. And take a look at the bite. So let's see here. We got 26 piercing damage from the bite, which is just that. It's an even number of dice, so we don't have to worry about any average numbers. And then the tail stinger. Let's see here. We have 13 piercing damage. And then, what else? Target needs to succeed a con save or become poisoned. While poisoned, the target is also paralyzed. The target can repeat the saving throw at the end of each of its turns, ending the effects on itself on a success. Okay, so Paralyze is basically going to be attacking a human, and that's similar to the Hold Person spell. And if I remember that correctly, let's see here, Hold Person. Come on, give me the Hold Person. There we go. Hold Person is a level 2 spell, and the effective damage for level 2 spells is about 12, which will line up, surprisingly enough, with the attacks for the bite. So if we add in the effective damage of 12 for paralyzing someone, not to mention the poison as well, but because it's poisoned and condition immunities like poison don't really take into consideration, you know, we might add in more for poison, but I'd have to find a spell that's similar to that. So for the time being, we're going to say that the Tail Stinger is dealing 25 damage, which is only 1 point shy of the bite attack, and is really starting to help back up my claim on this effective damage per round, which really helps figure out some of these like missing riders, like something like this here. So let's take a look at the total damage for these two, being 51 since it's 26 plus 25. So we have a multi-attack of 51 damage every turn. And this is what the Shisuva is going to be doing. It's just going to be doing this repeatedly. You know, move, bite, sting, whatever. So rounds 1 through 3, it's going to be the repeated multi-attack option here, times 3. And surprisingly enough, we get a CR 8. It's got a slightly lower base hit point rating in the DCR section, but because of its higher ACs coming from the saving throws and bumping it up to, let's see here, 16? Or no. What do we have here? Yeah, 16. Interesting. Oh no, it's just straight DCR 7. Okay, so the 16 doesn't move anywhere. So yes, we have a DCR 7 plus the OCR 8. We get ourselves a CR 8. So the Shisuva is a balanced monster. Even though it comes out to an average of 7.5, we round up to the 8 because we need to be closer to one or the other. So yeah, go ahead and use this. This is a versatile monster, at least that's how I would categorize it. It's definitely not a striker. So it can take some hits for a while, and it can also deal a decent amount of damage, especially with the paralyze. That's gonna be key there. Oh, welcome back, Population Growth. Thanks for stopping by again. I'm guessing you got a charger for your phone. Okay, so that's 3 monsters out of the way. We had the White, the Duergar, and the Shisuva. Are there any more recommendations? Let's see here. I feel like it's good as a setup for other monsters. Yeah, definitely. It could be one that, helps weaken the party a little bit and drains their resources to, bring up a boss for the encounter or the zone or something. Could be fun. Definitely could be a fun one to use. And, that paralyzing status could really, really, really turn this around. All right, Shisuva. Evaluated. We got a 7, an 8, found an 8, even, and no notes really. Well, I'll put a note that paralyze for 12 effective damage per round. Okay. Very cool. Let me add that in to my monsters to be short later on. And that was VGM. All right. Sure, let's take a look at that one, Vanderi. The unique named monster. Definitely, I'll take a look at all of them. I've even been doing homebrews as well, so if you got a homebrew monster, I'll do that. Titavillis. That sounds familiar. Population growth. If you don't have another in queue, could you look at the noble? Yeah, I could definitely look at the noble. Let me get a page number. It's Mordenkainen's. Okay, cool. Let's see here. I'll do both of them. Not a big deal. I'll get the noble set up. The noble is what? Is that in the back of the monsters manual? In the NPCs, I believe. Come on. Mage Noble. There we go. Not bad. Just a couple items here. And one reaction, excuse me. I almost thought I had a couple of reactions there. Page 179. Okay. Let's take a look at the Noble real quick, and then we will get on the Titavillis from Mordenkainen's. So we got Noble, which should be a 1/8. Oh man. Monsters Manual. And we also have Titavillis. And they are, let's see here. Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes. Perfect. I don't know the CR for that one yet, but it doesn't matter at the moment. All right, so we have we'll take a look at the Noble here since it's right here, and then I'll pull the book out for the other one, and we'll take a look at that. So we have the Noble, a medium humanoid, any race, with 15 AC, medium as I suggested, 2d8 hit dice, con score of 11, and should be a 1/8. Nice and low. Oh, okay. Vanderi, let's see here. Tons of abilities and spells. That'll probably be the ender for the night then. And I think even with a CR based on raw data, the monster is harder than the CR indicates with a tactically minded DM. Oh, sounds like something fun. I would probably try and use. I love tactics. That's my thing. All right. Moving into the skills, we don't have any skills to really worry about, nor monster traits, and all we really have is parry and the rapier attack. So let me go ahead and throw parry in for its reaction, which gives it a +1 effective AC bonus, and then the damage per round here. So the noble, let's see, it has a, excuse me, I'm sorry, the rapier, +3 to hit, nothing to worry about there, and it deals 5.5 damage. So, yeah, actually, it's overrated. Or, excuse me, underrated. Oh, man. These lower level monsters are absurd. So, here we go. As we can see on the sides here, our noble is actually, across the boards, a 1/4. And when we look at the chart, we can see that as well. Because of the higher AC, the DCR jumps up, and we actually need to bring this noble's AC down to a 14. So if we take it from a breastplate of 15 to something else of like medium armor that's a 14, the DCR would bring down would bump down to a 1/8. Then we still need to worry about the damage here. And the easiest way to do that would probably be to give it a short sword instead of a rapier. So if we give the noble a rapier, or excuse me, a short sword, that becomes a 1d6 +1, which would drop that down to 4 damage. And then if we give that 4 damage, let's see here. 4 damage per round? Oh no, we would have to go down to 3. Ugh, such a pain. Just make the noble a 1/4. That's the easiest way. Oh man, some of these lower ones are horrible. What if you just lowered his dex to 10? The dex would, yeah, that would help too. Let's see here. If we give it a short sword and we lower the dex to 10, that would definitely bring down the OCR from a 1/4 to a 1/8. And then if we also possibly give it some kind of just straight 14 AC, then we have a DCR 1/8 as well, which then gives our AC, gives our noble a CR 1/4 or 1/8, because right now it's technically a 1/4, which in theory isn't a big of a deal because most players would be working with the noble rather than fighting a noble, but who knows? It's the players, man. All right, so let me take a quick note of that one. 1/8 down to the noble. 1/4 right across the board. Underrated. And then we would want to adjust AC and dex to... Does the breastplate actually... Let's see here. Yeah, Vandari, what are you saying? If you lower dex to 10, AC drops to 14. Oh, the breastplate works off of... I'd have to take a look at my notes. If the breastplate is working off of dexterity like you're suggesting, then yeah, we don't have to worry about that. And then the 2-hit drops to +2, and the damage drops to 1d8. The 2-hit... Let's see here. If we have the 1d8, that's 4. But that's the problem, is that the 4... from the rapier, because it averages out to 4.5, we're still at the low end of 1/4. So that's why I suggest a short sword rather than a rapier, because the rapier or the short sword is a 1d6, and with no dex. Oh, population growth. Take care. Hopefully you'll enjoy your chores, but you know, no problems. Thanks for stopping by again. Back to the short sword. If we give the noble a short sword instead, that becomes a d6, and then the average is 3.5, and that's the high end of the 1/8. So that would be the easiest workaround, like definitely dropping the dex down and then just giving it a short sword. So at least in my opinion, I think that's how the best way it would work out. All right, I took my notes, adjust AC, and let's see here. Dex and weapon. Just do that for now. Anyways. All right. Let's clear that out and get Mordenkainen's. And the Titavilis is on 179. So let's see here. 180. What do we have here? Oh, okay. Yeah, I've seen this fiend before. Oh yeah, there's a lot going on here. Okay. Let's see what we can do. All right. Titavilis is a medium fiend with 20 AC, 17 hit dice, and a constitution bonus of 17 as well. We have 22 wisdom, 26 charisma, because we'll probably need the charisma, as that's probably, no, it says natural armor, so it's probably not taking into account the charisma bonus for anything special like that. And let's see here, should be a CR 16. Oof, we got a big one here. All right. Yeah, Vendari, this one's gonna take a while. You weren't kidding. Thankfully, it looks like a lot of it shouldn't be too terrible. We'll see what happens. I got 20 minutes left on the stream anyways, so let's figure this out. Moving into the skills section, we have, let's see here, Dex, Con, Wisdom, and Charisma saves. So we have 4 saving throws for a bonus of +2 AC. We have some skills. We can skip those. Damage resistances for cold, bludgeoning, piercing, slashing, and yeah, all that stuff. For non-silvered weapons. Wow. Oh, and yeah, and non-magical. So non-magical attacks that aren't silvered. I'm pretty sure you need a magic weapon and it has to be silvered in order to hit this guy. Or hit this fiend. Don't worry about it. Plenty of people like to throw curveballs at me. Some people suggested Orcus, the Kraken, you know, some of the mythic monsters from Mythic Odysseys of Theros. So this is a fun one. It's just going to take us some time, that's all. We also have damage immunities to fire and poison, but because it's only 2 conditions, I'm going to skip that for now. But we do get a 25% bonus on the hit points from the resistances. And with all those out of the way, let's skip down into the monster traits, which there's a decent amount. We've got some innate spellcasting here, and we have a whole bunch in the at-will stuff. Let's see, anything worth noting? Bestow Curse. Confusion could be helpful. Major Image might be helpful. Non-detection, Sending, Suggestion. Suggestion is a decent one. We also have Greater Invisibility for self-only. Mislead, which is curious. I don't usually see that one come up too often. Feeble Mind, which is definitely helpful. And Symbol, Discord or Sleep Only. Interesting. Oh yeah, for sure. Having greater invisibility on before battle starts. Ooh, forget it. Even if you take the first turn to cast greater invisibility, that's going to be a rough one right there. Alright, so for the time being, I'm going to skip over innate spellcasting because there's none that are direct damage and a lot of stuff that is giving effective damage. For instance, the Feeble Mind. I don't remember what Symbol does. And Greater Invisibility. These are all going to be some really good ones, as well as Confusion and Suggestion as well. So let's skip over that for now and come back to that later if we need it. Excuse me. So we have Legendary Resistance, which is standard for these higher level monsters, especially those with legendary actions. 3 giving it plus 90 effective hit points. And then the duo, the dynamic duo here of Magic Resistance as well for more effective AC. Then we also have magic weapons, which just lets the fiend bypass resistances for magic and whatnot. And then we have regeneration of 10 hit points per turn. So we'll have additional 30 for the calculations. And then what else do we have? Ventriloquism. Whenever Titavilis speaks, he can choose a point within 60 feet. And the rest doesn't matter. There's no effect on ventriloquism for Titavilis here. Would Greater Invisibility give an AC bonus? Yes and no. So the problem is that it takes the action to cast it. And by doing that, you're losing out on the actual damage. Now, if you could cast Greater Invisibility as a bonus action, then I would say yes. It would be just like Superior Invisibility here. like the pixies and fairy dragons get. Or I don't think fairy dragons get that. But anyways, pixies at least. There's like a couple other monsters that can do superior invisibility as well as a bonus action. So that's the kicker here. But greater invisibility is what level spell? Greater invisibility is a 4th level spell and could be worth, let's see here. Go to 4th level spells. Could be worth roughly 28 or 40 effective damage per round, which could come in handy later on. But we'll see how that all plays out, because that could be something. And I've tried stepping away from Invis and Greater Invis as the AC bonus because of certain various factors going on. But let's take a look at that just in case. If we'll factor that in later if we need to. So with all that out of the way, let's take a look at the combat workspace here and see what we get for Titavilis's actions and legendary actions. So first off, we have its +9 to hit, and we probably have some DC stuff later on if we need to factor that in as well. Now, excuse me. Now Titavilis has a multi-attack of 1 sword attack and uses his frightful word once. Okay. So we have a silver sword, +9 to hit as suggested before, and does natural armor. So we can use this as a 2-handed attack. All right, very good. So we'll say 9.5 plus 16.5 necrotic damage. If the target is a creature, its hit point maximum is reduced by an amount equal to half the necrotic damage as well. All right, so we need to factor in some effective damage around here as well. And the silver sword will deal half the necrotic, so we'll suggest it's 8 effective damage as well, dealing roughly 34 damage every time the sword hits. After that, we have Frightful Word, and let's take a look at this one. One creature he can see is within 10 feet. They must succeed a DC 21 Wisdom save or become frightened of him for 1 minute. While frightened in this way, the target must make dash action, yada yada yada, safest available route, unless there's nowhere else to move. Alright, we do have, because this is something Titavilis can do every turn, I feel like that's similar to Frightful Presence, but on one target. Yeah, and the thing is that we're going to be doing that every turn, but because it's a expected CR 16, this may not have any impact. Let's see here. Ooh, what's going on here? Why did that not click? Oh, I see what's going on. Frightful Presence. Yeah. Because its CR is 16, that's the cutoff is at level 10 for anything frightful. But it might give effective damage. If we take a look at the Fear spell, let's see here. Fear is a 3rd level spell, and 3rd level spells are on average about 30 damage per round. So in theory, Frightful Word could be dealing 30 effective damage, which is more or less right in line with its original attack. So if we take the Frightful Word as effective damage rather than, effective hit points, and because it's pushing the players away and not dealing that damage, effectively that is dealing damage. So that's why I go with effective damage per round. So in theory, Frightful Word is doing 30. We'll see what happens. This is going to be a tricky one. On top of that, for some other actions, Titavilis can do teleport, and can teleport with anything up to 120 feet away, which would be more effective damage per round. But at the moment, I'm going to skip over that. And then we have Twisting Words. Titavilis targets one creature he can see within 60 feet. Target needs to succeed a charisma save or become charmed for 1 minute. Alright, so more than likely, I'm not going to really worry about attacks 3 and 4 because they're not really doing anything at the moment. And I'm just going to go with this as the multi-attack. Let's see what happens here. And then we have some legendary actions. So let's see what's going on. Now that we have the multi-attack more or less figured out at about 64 damage per round, including the effective damage. Legendary action 1, let's see here, is Assault. And Titlevilus attacks with his silver sword or uses his frightful word. Well, in theory, we would want to use the silver sword more than the frightful word because it's actually doing some damage. And that's 2 actions. And then what else could we do for 1 action? Well, 1 action would be Corrupting Guidance. Titlevilus uses Twisting Words. Alternatively, he can target 1 creature charmed by this. Let's see here. On a failure, Titlevilus decides how the target acts during... Okay. So Corrupting Guidance could be doing... it's all that potential for effective damage. Let's skip over that for now and just see what we have for the direct damage stuff and see if anything else is happening there. And then another one could be the teleport. All right. Let's see what happens here. This is going to be a weird one for sure. So round 1 in combat would be the multi-attack and then the legendary action for Assault. And we get a total of 68 effective, or 68 potential total damage. No, that's not right. It should be more than that. Oh, I did U12 twice. That's why. Silly me. Okay, 98 effective damage. And that needs to be multiplied or done a couple times, so this would be every round of combat. Alright, so it looks like... Ooh, cat. What are you doing, cat? Don't do that. I feel like your quick review of this one is going to end with abilities everywhere. Yeah, for the shorts, you're saying? Yeah, the shorts are going to be... It's going to be a weird one for sure when I get to the shorts. Come on. Come on, cat. Move. You're almost right in the way. Come on, buddy. Come on. There you go. Alright. So, again, with the oddball here. Because I gave Frightful Word 30 effective damage, and the multi-attacks and really not worrying about anything else, it looks like Titlevilus is at least a CR16. If we take, let's see here, teleport. What kind of teleport does that? We could say, what, like, Dimension Door? What level is Dimension Door? Because that's very similar. Dimension Door is a 4th level spell and about the same amount of feet. Okay. So Dimension Door would be roughly 28 effective damage because it's just a spell doing that. And Twisting Words is Charm. So let's see here. Charm spell. And, duh. Charm Person would be a 1st level spell, so Charm Person doesn't really do anything worthwhile. Charm Person is only worth 10 effective damage. So, yeah. Alright, so if we add in the effective damage for the lair action on top of the Assault for 2 points to attack, and then also potentially doing in the teleport effective damage and moving about, we might see a CR19 technically. Hey Grimboy, how you doing? Yep. So Titlevilus is at least a CR16. But because of the teleport and really jumping around the room and messing with players, we could possibly see a CR19. It's really hard to say here, one way or the other. But if anything, it's at least even rated, for sure, because of the multi-attack and some of the legendary actions it can do. God, goodness. Let me see here. If we were to take the teleport and just teleport a whole bunch of times. Yikes. That would be worth 84. So even though Titavilus wouldn't be doing actual damage, and we switch this around a little bit. So let's say here, instead of U12, we do U14. Yeah, we could potentially see Titavilus up to upwards of CR19, possibly even CR20. Teleporting while invisible. Oh, yeah. Even worse. Oh, man. Let's see here. Greater Invis. What level spell is that? Greater Invisibility is also 4th level. So we're also looking at potentially either 28 or 40 effective damage. So that just falls right in line as well with the teleport. Yeah. Oh. Yeah, this is a rough one with all the abilities and whatnot. Yeah, it's anywhere between a CR 16 and 19. Wow. Okay. Alright, I'm going to go with the 19 because these are all effective. Yeah, I'll just say 19 upwards, but... Ooh, okay. If it sits there and just kind of fights one-on-one, which is dumb. It's not a good thing, you know. It would be very foolish for Titavilus to be trying to fight one-on-one and not using any of the other abilities it has. Yeah, I'm going to go with the 19 on this. Alright, let's see here. 16. X for that, since it's been found, potentially. And we have 17, 20, and 19. Okay. Let's see here. CR 16 when fighting without other abilities. Okay. Well, this has been a fun night. We've covered 5 monsters. We've had, let's see here. What do we have? We had the white, a CR3 monster that turned out to be CR2. Actually, hold on here. Yeah, CR16, precisely Vandari. CR16 when it's cannon fodder. And since this is a named one, Titavilus should not be cannon fodder for anything. Oh man. And I spelt it wrong too. There we go. Alright, let me switch over to the stream is ending. And that way we can chat without me mucking about with all the stuff going on here, since it is now coming up 3 minutes to 11 o'clock. So we covered the white, a CR3 that we actually found to be CR2. Needed some adjustments to its strength and dex to help balance that out and bring it to an even rated CR3. We also had the Duergar that needed CR1. If it's fighting without its enlarge, it's a CR1 half. But make sure it's enlarged before battle, which you can say, yeah, it enlarges before battle starts because, hey, you're the DM, right? Then it becomes a CR1 as long as it's constantly swinging away. We also looked at Shasuva from Volo's Guide to Monsters, a CR8 monster, which did work out to be, what was it, a fiend? Yeah, that weird long-tailed stinger dog wolf thing. CR8, which worked out to be even rated. And then we also looked at the Noble from the Monsters Manual at the back for NPCs. It's printed CR1/8, but we found a 1/4. With some small adjustments, we can get it back down to 1/8, or just rate it at 1/4, which was easier to do than going through the mess of, dealing with all that nonsense. And then finally, we also looked at Titavilus from Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes, a CR16, which, as Vandari easily pointed out, is, when it's cannon fodder, it's a CR16. If it's jumping around the room, teleporting and charming and doing all sorts of other crazy, annoying things as fiends are prone to do, then we do have at least probably a CR19, maybe even a 20, provided we use some of the spells that, Titavilus has on hand. All right. That was a fun night. And I'm glad I had some people here to join me for this late night stream. This first one that I've done, Saturday nights from 10 to 11. Vanderi, you're very welcome. Thanks for stopping by. And yeah, I'll see you all next Saturday when we expose some more Monster CRs live. If you've made it this far in the live streams, thank you so much. You've been awesome. And this is me, Andrew, hoping that all of your encounters are even rated. Have a good night, guys.